Welcome to the Leading Yourself podcast. This is your host, Carolina de Arriba. I'm an HR professional, health and fitness coach, wife, mom, and above all things, a goal-getter. In this podcast, we're going to be digging into all things leadership, professional and career development, habits, and relationships. This is a podcast for those who want to become the best version of themselves. Those who have big dreams and are willing to embrace the journey and put in the work to achieve them. My goal is to share with you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you in your journey. So let's dig into today's episode. Hello, welcome back to a new episode. I'm so excited. It feels a little bit awkward because typically I record my podcast on Sunday mornings, and today is Friday afternoon. And there is two main reasons why I'm recording this podcast today. Number one is tomorrow we're leaving on a family long weekend vacation to Colorado. Very excited. First time that I'm going to be in Denver and Aspen. So really excited. And the second reason is because what I want to share with you today is something that just happened today. And now that is fresh in my mind, that my state is high and I'm super excited for what just happened today, I wanted to come here and share with you. So let me give you a little bit of background. I've been following a lot of thought leaders throughout the years, and many of them share that once a year, typically around this time of the year, they go on a inward retreat in some fancy place in the middle of nowhere, and they spend a few days with themselves for themselves where they kind of reflect on their year and they start to look forward and planning for the year ahead. And planning for the year ahead is something that I have done for as long as I can remember. It's very ingrained in me, but I've been doing that differently, right? And when I have heard about these people talking about, I went 3 days in the middle of the desert or in this island, and I spent time without any technology, just doing some deep work and reflecting on my year and kind of looking ahead and setting a vision for the next year, I always felt jealous in a good way. But at the same time, immediately I would shut down this idea. I would say, okay, they are, popular people. They make tons of money. They have both the time and the resources to do something like that. And I always use the excuse, I'm like, I don't have the time and it's very expensive. I always felt guilty of going somewhere by myself, leaving my kids and my husband, and spending money in something like this. And this year, I told myself, this is just an excuse. I'm just making an excuse. I just don't want to do it. And I'm like, no, but I do. I do want to do that. Like every time I hear someone sharing this, I'm like, one day I am going to do it. So this year I told myself, okay, maybe I cannot go to an island or the desert or some fancy place to have my own retreat. But what can I do where I am with what I have? And I decided to take the day off. So today I took a PTO day. And as soon as my kids were out of the door to the school, I dedicated most of the day today to have this experience for myself. And I want to walk you through a little bit what my experience has been. But my first hope with sharing this is like, if you, like me, have heard these people talking about these things and you're like, one day when I'm rich, one day when I have full flexibility and I own my time, I will do these things. One day when my kids are out to college, I will do this. You don't have to wait for any of those things to happen or whatever other excuse you're making in your head not to do it. You can do it exactly where you are with what you have available, both time, money, any kind of resource, right? Those are just excuses. You can make it work. And I am proof of that. I just did that today and it was amazing. It was even better than what I was expecting. Because when I started planning this, I thought, okay, I'm going to do it, but it's not going to be what I think it's going to be. It's not going to be what other people are sharing. It really surpassed my expectations. It's not about where you are, it's not about, going to a fancy place or traveling somewhere. It's about just taking the time, making the time for yourself to connect with yourself and really take the time to reflect. And I have to say that because I only had a day, less than a day, I did some prep work in advance. And that prep work was just making a list of the questions that I wanted to ask myself and I wanted to spend time reflecting on. And that was super helpful. That really helped me maximize the time that I had today to do this exercise. So let me walk you through how that looked for me. So, the first thing that I did once my kids were out of the door is I went to nature. I feel like spending time in nature really helps to open your mind, to get in your creative side. And even though it was really cold, I went to a park that is near my house that is actually beautiful. Like the fall colors are amazing. If you are subscribed to my newsletter, I think last week I shared some pictures of this park. So I went to this place and I just walk in nature. And while I was walking in nature and I was trying to connect my senses, be mindful of where I was, I stopped for a moment and I did a gratitude practice. So I asked myself, what are the things that happened this year that I'm grateful for? So I did a gratitude walk, and that's how I kicked off this whole process for myself. So typically, when I do a gratitude practice, I'm just focusing on the last 24 hours. In this case, I focus on the entire year. What are some things that happened this year that I'm grateful for? And at first, it takes a little bit of time to come up with some things. My experience is you start to come up with things that are very recent. So we have recency bias, like we do in other things. And then after a little bit, you start to remember things and you're like, oh my God, and that also happened this year. And that too. And that person did that. And that opportunity present itself and you start to really open up to all the great things that have happened in my life this year, and it felt really really good because you're kind of reliving those moments and the joy that those moments um brought you when they happened. So that's how my day started. Then I went to a coffee shop. I was freezing cold. I wanted to have a coffee. So I went to a coffee shop with my notebook, with my journal, and I started journaling. I put my noise canceling headsets and I put some background music. I use the Pomodoro technique for my journaling. I struggle with focusing, and I think that I have developed over the years ADHD. I don't know, I that hasn't ever been diagnosed, but I have the feeling that maybe over the years I have developed a little bit of it. So for me, using the Pomodoro technique really helps me when I want to get into deep work. And in this case, I really want to shut down all the distractions and be able to focus on journaling around these questions that I had for myself. So, put my noise canceling headsets. I use the Pomodoro technique, which basically is it's a timer, right? And it has some focus background music and it runs for 25 minutes and then you take a 5-minute break and then you do it again for 25 minutes. And there are apps that would do that for you. I have an app on my phone that is set up for the Pomodoro technique. It has great music that there's scientifically proven to put you in a state of concentration and focus. So I did that and I started just journaling. And I want to share with you some of the things or the questions that I journal about. And I started first journaling about what are the things that I'm most proud of this year. What are some of my big accomplishments this year? What did I accomplish this year that made me feel proud? And I started writing about it. And again, it takes a minute to kind of think through everything that happened during the year. The year went by super fast, but at the same time, when you're looking back, sometimes time gets distortioned and you're like, did that happen this year or the year before? Anyways, I spent the full 25 minutes writing down what I have accomplished and what I'm most proud of. Then I took a 5-minute break, and then another 25 minutes, I started writing down all the brand new experiences that I experienced this year. So, what are some things that I did for the very first time this year? For me, just to share with you a couple of highlights for me was, for example, we took our kids for the first time to Disney. That was a new experience. None of us, not my husband, my kids, or I, had been to Disney before. So that was a brand new experience for us. Another brand new experience for me was to leave my kids with friends while I was out of town for 4 days for work. That's something that I've never done before. I'll tell you, I have a 14-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I've never used a babysitter in my life. So this was a huge thing for me. It was terrifying at the moment. It all worked out just perfect because we had great friends that took great care of our kids. But I really stepped outside of my comfort zone, and it was a total new experience for me and for my husband. Also, I started using ChatGTP for the first time this year. That was a brand new experience. Like, I have interacted with AI in different ways, like with Google Home or Alexa or things like that, but never in the way that I did this year through ChatGTP. So that was another brand new experience for me. And there's many others, but just to highlight a couple with you. Then the next question I ask is, what new relationships did I build this year? Focusing on building relationships and nurturing relationships is a big focus for me every year. And if you listen to a podcast episode I did on how to make networking less scary, I talk about how I go about that. But I start to reflect on what are new relationships that I built this year. What are some relationships that people that I reconnected with this year? Who are people that I said I would and I didn't connect with? I also start reflecting of what are all the places that I travel to. I love traveling. My husband and I, every year, I have shared this with you. I don't believe in New Year's resolutions, but we always have just one, and that is to travel to a new place every single year. And since we met, we have done this even through the pandemic, even if it's a local place, but we go to somewhere that we've never done. So I started writing down what are the new places that I went this year and what are all the places that I visited this year. And that brings me a lot of joy because I love traveling, I love experiencing new cultures. So this is something that a lot of times I tell myself I don't do enough of that. And then when I reflect back, I realize that we did a ton of traveling between vacation and work. I got to visit new places or go back to places that I've been before, like my hometown. That was a big trip this year. Then I journal about what did I learn this year? What are some of the things that I learned? What are some of the life lessons that 2023 gifted me? And this one is one that I spent a good chunk of time thinking through, and I realized that I've learned a lot of things. Sometimes it wasn't learning something new, but reaffirming something that I knew and I had forgotten about. So it's a combination of a lot of things. And in this, it's life lessons, is new skills like using AI, things like that. I also not only did lessons learned, but I also reflected on what did I got better at. What are some areas in my life that I saw improvements, that I saw growth, that I experienced growth. I also journal about what are new habits that I incorporated this year, right? What are new habits that I built? I am huge on habits. So reflecting on what are the habits that I build and what are the habits that I maintain and what are the habits that I retired, right? Because I think a lot of times when we start a habit, we think that it's a lifelong commitment to that habit. And I personally think that it's important to check in once in a while and ask ourselves, is this habit serving me? You might have outgrown your habits and you need to pick new habits. So for me, that is a great reflection to have at the end of the year. And all of this kind of zooms up to the things that I have learned during the year. And it feels really good, right? Because a lot of times we lose sight of those things. Then just for fun, I like to write down what are my top 3 books that I read this year, the top 3 podcasts that I listen to the most, the 3 movies that I enjoy the most, and the 3 TV shows that I watched this year. Um, and that is just for fun, but I think it also makes me think about, did I read as much as I wanted to? What are the topics that I read about that I was interested on? What are the podcasts that I listened to? It gives a fun perspective to the reflection. So that was on 2023. Then I took some time to step back and realize, right, and remind myself that there's only 60 days left in the year. And I reconnected back to the goals that I set at the beginning of the year. And I also connected with all the projects that I'm currently working on at work and outside of work. And I took some time to reprioritize all of those things, being very realistic that there's only 60 days in the year. What are the things that I want to bring to the finish line before the year is over? What are the things that I want to make progress on before the year is over? And when I say there's only 60 days in the year, that includes holidays and weekends and everything, right? We're just 60 days away. By the time you listen to this, we will be less than 60 days away from the end of the year. And kind of prioritizing, right? There are some important topics at work that I definitely want to close before the year ends. So I started to plan when I am going to work on these things and what are these things that I'm going to work on, because I can't realistically close out everything. So I need to pick and choose the things that I want to put my energy and my focus on. So when I'm sitting at the end of the year, I can look back and feel proud of what I did and the impact that I made and what I accomplished. So that was all about 2023. That was the first, let's say, half of my inward retreat. All of this happened on a coffee shop, and at that time I went back home. I prepared myself a healthy meal. I actually try a new recipe, and I really enjoy lunch by myself while I was listening to some music and kind of relaxing. And then in the afternoon, I focus on 2024. And I did something very similar as I did in retrospective from 2023, but I did a whole exercise. I did a life audit. I have shared here on the podcast many times before how I go about doing a life audit. I'm not going to go through that today, but I did a life audit. Where am I and where do I want to be in all of these 8 areas of my life by the end of 2024? And And I picked the 3 areas of my life that I really want to focus on next year. I also completed a vision board for 2024. This is a really fun exercise. It's one of my favorite things to do towards the end of the year. And I actually built it. I use Canva to build mine, and that becomes the background of my computer. And I have it on my planner as well. So it's in front of me throughout the year, reminding me of what is my vision, right? What is my dreams for the upcoming year? What is, yeah, it's a vision board, very visual. I'm a visual person, so this concept really resonates with me. So I did that. And I also journal on a few questions alongside with my vision board. Like, what do I want to accomplish in 2024? What are new things that I want to try? What do I want to learn? What do I want to get better at? What places do I want to go? What things I'm going to say no to? This one is very important because I feel that every time that we plan for a new period of time, whether it's the next year, the next month, the next quarter, whatever it is, we always think about things that we want to add, but very rarely we talk about things that we want to stop. So for me, I also like to take the time to reflect on what are some things that I'm going to say no to this year. I also spend some time reflecting on who do I want to become and who do I need to become to make that vision board a reality. Because I think I am not yet the version of myself that is capable of achieving the things that are in that vision board. I need to grow in order to be the kind of person that will be able to make that vision board a reality. So I talk about and go deeper. I think I journal about who do I want to become this year. I also spend some time thinking about how am I going to step outside of my comfort zone in 2024? And then what do I want to do less of and more of? Things like spending less time in social media, doing less negative self talk, um, self doubt, and things that I want to do more, like invest time in myself, spend more quality time with people that matter to me, smile more, focus more on the positives, practice more gratitude, be of service to others, have fun weekends and create magical moments with my kids, intentional movement, all of those things that I want to do more of in 2024. And then I think about what are the things that I'm looking forward to in 2024 and what are some positive habits that will help me build my achieve my goals and become that version of myself and do more of those things that I want to do. So those are the things that basically I spend time all the day today thinking about. And based on that, I started my planning for 2024. As you can imagine, I did not finish my planning for 2024. I probably need another day, take some time to complete that. But what I did today gave me this solid foundation. And the other thing that I did with all this work, after I'm done with all this reflection, I go through an exercise to pick my power word for next year. So every year, I like to pick a word, kind of like a theme for the year. Based on all the things that I journal about, I start to look for patterns in the things that I write. And that kind of gives me this theme for the year. And I was thinking about different potential words for this year. So I started with a list of words, and I ended up settling on one. And my power word for 2024 is vibrant. And when I look for the definition of the word vibrant, it says full of energy and enthusiasm. And some synonyms for that is full of life, full of spirit, high spirited, energetic, vigorous, vital, um, animated, sparkling. All of those are synonyms of vibrant. And that is the word that I picked for next year. I want to be vibrant. I want to have vibrant energy. And I want to infuse that vibrant energy in all the areas of my life and in everything that I do. Some words that I have picked in years past. So 2021 was thrive, which led to the Thrive Conference. And then I also have word unstoppable. I had the word this year, the word was intentional. And for 2024 is going to be vibrant. That's the word that I picked. I will be reposting a podcast episode that I've been doing for probably since the podcast started, where I got you step by step on how to pick your power word for the year. So I'll post that in a later episode if you're interested on finding your own power word for 2024. But that is what I work on. I also worked on not only the results that I want to achieve, the actions, in very intentional actions that I want to take to achieve those results, but I also worked on my identity, who I want to become, and my potential. And I believe that for me to realize that vision board that I did and to become that person that I want to become, I need to play out at a level 10. So I spend some time defining what that means for me, what level 10 means for me. And I'm going to share it with you. This is very vulnerable and very personal, but I hope that in sharing it with you, it inspires you. I am the kind of person that in the past, for me, operating at a level 10 meant that I was all in all the time. And I realized that that is not sustainable, that I can't be perfect all the time. I can't be perfect, period, because perfection doesn't exist. That I cannot be on my A game 24/7, 365 days a year. I have learned that there are ups and there are lows, right? There are highs and lows. And operating at a level 10 means being mindful and accepting of all that life puts in your way. Because if you try to be, or your potential, that level 10, to be always beyond, always be perfect, at the end of the day, the only thing that you do is that you set yourself for disappointment and most likely for giving up on the things that matter most to you. And one thing that I have very clear for myself is that I'm not willing to give up on my dreams. I'm not willing to give up on the person that I want to become. I'm not willing to give up on the things that I want to do and the legacy that I want to build in my life. So I always like to spend time in redefining what level 10 means for me. And this is what it means right now, exactly where I am right now in my life. Because the reason why I do this every year is because I think we all grow and evolve, and our potential also changes, and we need to adapt that to meet us where we are based on what we need, right? So let me share with you what I came up with this year. Okay, I need a sip of my water. Here is my definition of level 10. For me, it means that I am not afraid of changing, falling down, or making mistakes. I am committed to lean in and say yes to all. I have the capacity to learn from every experience and to continue to grow and evolve. I am present, embracing all aspects of life. I have the capacity to hold it all: the good, the bad, the positive, the not so positive, the fun, the joy, the stress, the overwhelm, all of it. I lean in and appreciate every gift of every perfect feeling and every experience because I don't want to miss out on any of life's teachings. I go to bed feeling proud for trying, for leaning in. I know that what is thrown at me is what I am able to overcome. I attract the life of my dreams. I am a woman that is capable of living that life. I play out and I live at a level 10. That is my definition of potential. And for me, if I'm able to apply my potential throughout the year in everything that life throws at me, I know that at the end of the day, at the end of the year, I'm going to feel proud of my 2024, regardless of what happens. So that was my day today, all of that in one day. And time flew by super fast. The moment I realized it was already time to go pick up my kids from school, and the day was gone, and I'm still not done. But as I said, I think I laid a really good foundation for this. And as I was doing this exercise, I thought, how can I help others do something similar for themselves? And other than sharing with you today in this episode my experience, which I did really quickly. And if you were trying to take notes, probably I was going too fast for you to be able to write down all the questions that I asked myself. I'm putting together an online training on this step by step in a systematic way, like walking you through how could you do an exercise like this for yourself, leading into planning your best year for 2024. And it's something that I want to do because I want to be able to share with others. And I would be curious if you would be interested in something like this. If you would, do me a favor and send me a message. You can contact me through social media. You can find me as Leading Yourself Podcast. You can go to my website, which is leadingyourselfpodcast.com. And there is a space for you to submit questions and comments. I would love to hear if this is something that you would be interested on. And if you are, if there's enough people that is interested, I'm committed to create something for you. So please let me know. I would love to hear some feedback. I have to say that as I mentioned before, this surpassed my expectations. And now I'm sitting here and thinking, why didn't I did this before? Why didn't I took a day of PTO in the past to dedicate a day and spend the day with myself for myself? And I think this is going to be my new ritual going forward. Every year I'm going to pick a random Friday and I'm going to do this. It doesn't require me to spend any money other than a coffee that I probably would have bought anyways, and just making the time for myself. I think it's important to make ourselves a priority, and it's important to take the time to look ahead and to plan. Because if you don't prioritize your life, someone else will for you. And I don't know about you, but I like to be in control of my life, and I want to be the author of my own story. And I use this analogy a lot because I like to write and I aspire to become an author. And for me, every year is a new book. And 2024, the title of the book um, is Vibrant. And then every month is going to be a chapter where I'm going to go deeper into a topic that has worked out so well for me in years past. This year, it's something that I have really enjoyed. And I'm looking forward to share that journey with you here on the podcast. So, hope this was inspiring. At least it made you think about, okay, there's only 60 days left in the year. What are the things that you want to prioritize for the remaining 60 days of this year? And then what is your vision for next year? You know, someone, I saw this question somewhere and I can't remember where, and it's something that I reflected on in creating my vision board for next year. But imagine that today someone would tell you that you only have 1 year left to live. Hopefully, that is not the case for any of us, but just imagine that someone would tell you you only have 1 year left of life. How would you like to live that year? And that really helped me to take my vision to the next level and to think about, the only thing we have guaranteed is today, right? We don't have tomorrow guarantee. And if I would only have 1 year to live, what are the things that I want to experience? What are the memories that I want to build? What is the legacy that I want to leave behind me? And that really inspired me to really elevate that vision board. And that's why I said I'm still not the version of me that can make that a reality, but I am committed to grow and become that person and be able to live a year that it's fulfilling and makes me feel proud and makes me feel happy and joyful and vibrant as my power word of 2024. Okay, that's what I have for you today. Please let me know what you thought of today's episode. Let me know your thoughts. Please connect with me in social media. I would love to connect with you. If you found today's episode inspiring and you can think of someone that could benefit from the content that we talked about today, please share the podcast with them. Help me spread the word. And if you don't mind, go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That helps to get more visibility to the podcast. And one of the things on my vision board is to get this podcast in front of more people and expand the impact that I'm able to make through the podcast. And it will mean the world to me if you help me with that vision that I have for next year. Okay, I hope you have an amazing week ahead, and I will see you back here next week for another episode of the Leading Yourself podcast.